Franklin Rieger getting traded to Minnesota changes nothing.
6'4" guys running 4.4s. These guys don't grow on trees. And a lot of times I'm willing to bet on, especially long term, on the freak athlete.
You don't ever want to overreact to what guys look like in preseason. There's been a ton of preseason all-stars that never make rosters or never pan out.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. Week 9 is here. I don't know about you, but I had the thought this morning. I was like, it's really already week 9. We're going to be talking fantasy playoffs in about 4 or 5,
a month, yeah,
maybe 6 weeks, depending on what your league's format is. So, yeah, we're in it. There's no turning back now. If you're 1-7, 2-6, somewhere around that range, you kind of have to win out at this point to have a shot. So good luck if you're in that case. But it's been a wild ride so far this season. So we're going to continue that today for your week 9. And as always, first off and foremost from the bar, Chase, how are you this morning?
Doing all right so far. Like we were talking about the weather before we got on air here today. It was cold. It's been cold and rainy and windy, like weird up here in the Midwest. If anybody who watched some of the games yesterday saw that, the Big Ten Network's coverage of the Badger game, you could barely see it. It was weird because the cameras were all fogged up and covered with water, and the wind was blowing. It was the same way for Ohio State, Northwestern. Everything over here has kind of been like that. But nice and sunny outside right now. Feeling good about things. My in-laws have the 2 kids, my 2 youngest kids, because we had an event last night. So I'm like, heck yeah, I got to wake up on my own this morning. I didn't have that going. I'm like, I can check my lineups and take my time, and I don't have to get anybody's breakfast ready or anything except my own. So I'm happy.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to get your breakfast going.
No,
just a little pop top there. Sorry about that. But yeah, anyways, let's jump right into this because look, the trade deadline obviously came and went this past week, so we'll touch on some of those trades. First and foremost, though, let's get a couple quick news items out of the way here on injuries that have come out this morning. Mark Ingram is going to be out tomorrow night, so at least we know that today instead of he's on a game time decision. So that's good for any Monday night owners of Ingram. He's out. James Robinson is a game time decision today, but it's
that popped up late
he'll play. How was that?
That popped up kind of late too. That the James Robinson thing that wasn't necessarily
his injury. Yes. Yeah, that came up a little bit later in the week. So, yeah, that one, definitely watch that. It is optimistic that he'll play, but the fact that he's still a game-time decision and that it came sometime this week, that injury hit, definitely keep an eye on that. James Conner is expected to play, which I'm a little shocked by because I thought at the beginning of the week it sounded like he wasn't going to. So, James Conner is expected to play.
He's been kind of a thorn in everybody's side. It sucks because I was really high on him. I have quite a bit of exposure to him because I was high on his position this preseason, and then now he's been a game time decision here about the last month.
Yeah, he was set up for a good season, and it's just unfortunately with injuries it just hasn't worked out.
I'm not convinced that if he's fully healthy, I'm not convinced that Benjamin takes too much of his work away. I've seen a lot of talk about that. That remains to be seen. They may do it just to try and keep Connor healthy, but Connor, I think, is definitely the better of the 2 backs overall.
At this point, still, I think Eno has something to offer, and maybe going forward, he's able to take another step forward. But at this point, I'd still give the edge to Connor. But yeah, you're right. Benjamin still has a role in this offense now. I think, regardless, it almost feels like the way the Cardinals used to do it with, David Johnson and Chase Edmonds. So we'll see how it all plays out. But yes, James Conner looks like he should be on the field today. Darren Waller, unlikely though. Swift will play, but limited role. So that is one of the worst situations as a fantasy owner for your top end talent guy on your team to play, but they say limited role because that could mean
fire up Jamal Williams.
Anything.
I would. It's tough because he's such an explosive talent. DeAndre Swift won't need a ton of touches to have a potentially big day. But if his role is going to be limited, how many touches is he going to get? Is he actually all that healthy? Is he going to play much? Meanwhile, we've seen Jamal Williams score 2 touchdowns a game just by default.
Yeah.
When he's in, when he's gotten the use. So Yeah, I'd feel much more confident firing up Jamal Williams, but
I'm not too
not
high on
everybody has
this.
those two.
I'm not too high on really this Lions team as a whole today. Coming off the trade deadline of they've been just sending people off over the last couple of weeks here. So I'm curious to see what they look like. And I feel like I've been saying this for like 2 weeks now, that it feels like the Packers might take a chance here to take an opportunity here to get themselves right.
Well,
This is the
the Packers might be able to get themselves right on offense this week, but
yeah.
you're still playing Green Bay's defense, and you can run on the Packers. So
Fair enough.
I mean I don't know. I'm not as high necessarily maybe on the Lions. I don't think they're scoring 55 points today or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But and their passing game, they may take a little while to kind of find a new normal now without Hawkinson in there, because Brock Wright is not TJ Hawkinson in any way, shape, or form. But I think you can confidently. I wouldn't feel bad at all about turning Jamal Williams over today.
That's a fair enough point. Yeah, Damian Harris unlikely to play. Looks like DeAndre Carter is going to play. He was sick this week for the Chargers, which is usually we wouldn't talk about DeAndre Carter, but with Allen and Mike Williams out, he's going to have a role as long as he is actually feeling well enough to really go at it. So
Donald Parham's out for them too. Their backup tight end, Donald Parham.
Right.
So, I mean, they're very limited right now in their passing game. So
I expect this to be a big Everett and Eckler day. I mean, sure, I picked up Palmer as well in one league because with the injuries and bye weeks and the waiver wire, like Palmer's going to work for me this week. I do think he's going to be the third option in that offense as far as from a passing standpoint still today,
right.
but he should still have a good enough game. He still has a chance at a touchdown, and that'll pay off your dividends right there. Gus Edwards and Mark Andrews are still doubtful, so that's big there. Looks like it's going to be another Isaiah likely breakout opportunity here. And then look, the other big one that isn't injury related, but I want to kind of start the show off here with Cam Akers is active today for the Rams. And look, Cam Akers and Brandon Cooks, two guys I thought were almost guaranteed to be traded. The trade deadline did not move. That was shocker to me. But here's the way I'm looking at the Cam Akers scenario now. They didn't trade him, so which tells me coming into the trade deadline and why he hasn't been playing the last couple of weeks is because disagreement between him and McVay and the coaching staff on his role and kind of the outcome. They weren't sure if it was going to be a fit going forward. The fact that they didn't trade him and then the fact that he's now active shows me that, one, he's healthy. Two, they think that he is better than what they have in Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. And, I mean, Kieran Williams is going to be coming back from IR potentially next week. But it's to me, this speaks that they still believe that Cam Akers can come in off, and be active and be their top running back. Otherwise, I think they would have traded him. I really thought they would have traded him if they did, because why would they deal with the headache of not agreeing with him and all this, kind of side stuff in the locker room if they didn't believe that he was going to make a difference for their team? The fact that they are choosing to work through it with him, and they're still going to make him active and didn't trade him, it feels like they still think he's the best running back in the room over from what they've seen out of Henderson and Brown.
I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit there. That I don't necessarily think that they think that he's the best running back in the room, but I do find it interesting that I think that they do think they have something there, that they still think he has something to give, because I haven't seen anything to the effect of what kind of offers they may have gotten for him if they actively tried to shop him around or anything.
I did hear they turned down a few. That they weren't specific about how many or what the offers were, but I know they did turn down a few.
And so, kind of along the lines of your point, what that tells me is, they didn't feel that they were going to get anything of value back for him enough to trade him. They weren't going to turn him loose for anything, so they weren't desperate to get rid of him, and they were going to make sure they got a decent return for him, and apparently they didn't find a return that they felt was fair value to outweigh the, like we said, maybe the headache or whatever you want to call it of keeping him at this point. We're not there. We're not in the facility. We don't know how deep the any animosity is or anything like that.
Exactly,
Obviously,
yep.
they disagreed about his role, and he was having some issues himself and that. But I mean, yeah, I'm not shocked that they think he can be better than Malcolm Brown necessarily.
Yeah.
And yeah, at this point, it seems. I mean, Darrell Henderson's only like 24 years old or something like that, and and it seems like for about the last 8 years, it's going to be Darrell Henderson's season, and then it's just not. Like he doesn't appear at this point to be capable of being that full every down back. He has some of the same questions that I think we had about Devin Singletary kind of coming into this season, where could Singletary do it all? Singletary has shown that no, he's not going to be a Saquon Barkley all-star type.
Sure.
But I think Singletary has proven that he can fill that role, regardless of them going out and getting Nyheim Hines. Yes. Devin Singletary can play 3 downs for you if you have to. And you can feel good about that.
Just because you mentioned Hines, that was much more of and because they also traded away Moss in the same deal, that was much more of an indictment on Moss than it was Singletary.
I believe so too. And it was a case of the rich getting richer. They didn't need Nyheim Hines.
No,
they didn't need
but they were disappointed with Moss, and I think they obviously are planning to. They want to be a multifaceted, multi-level team, and being able to. They obviously want to use a position like Hines in that offense because they've tried to use Moss in that way, and he hasn't worked.
They drafted Cook.
Yeah. So that, and I think Cook is still going to be the future of that role, but I think it's good that they're not going to, force him into it right now. We've seen he hasn't really flashed in his moments out there so far this year, so let him take the time. It's not an easy position to learn in the NFL. You got to learn the blocking, you got to learn the pass routes, you got to learn, like, this is a lot to learn for running back, so you definitely want to give him the time. So Hines and Buffalo makes perfect sense, and the fact that they were able to ship off Zach Moss as well, just a fresh start right there for that position.
Yep, and I've said it before. I put it on Twitter, I think, and Zach Moss, unfortunately, I mean, Zach Moss is young too. I think Zach Moss is only 23. 24. He's young.
Oh yeah, because was it last year that was his rookie season or the year before?
2 years ago, I believe.
Was it 2 years ago?
He's got a couple years in the league by now, but he is a perfect candidate for change of scenery. But unfortunately, I don't think Middle Indiana is the scenery that he needs to see to make him any better right now. They've got Jonathan Taylor. Deion Jackson has shown he can be a guy when he needs to be. They still have Philip Lindsay, and there's too much going on there for him to really
but to that point,
be able to start over.
Maybe he learns from a guy like Philip Lindsay, who's been around a bit longer. Maybe there's an opportunity there for him to learn it from a different way and in a way that works for him. That's what you never know about these. Quote unquote fresh starts. It's maybe it comes down to a simple being the learning style of the guy trying to learn the offense or the specific role and the teaching style of the person teaching him.
Right, and I would be
as simple as that.
I would be holding Zach Moss if you're in dynasty. If you're in a dynasty format, if you've got him on your roster, dynasty rosters typically tend to be deeper. You've got a little more room for waiting on a guy. He is still very young. He still does have time to figure it out in this league. And he maybe doesn't ever turn out to be, a guy somewhere, like the guy somewhere, but he may turn out to be a usable piece here because he is still so young and he is talented enough. He's an NFL caliber player. There's no doubt about that. I think he may be the second most talented back on that roster right now in Indianapolis. It's just he hasn't seemed to figure out how to put it all together yet. So,
and he's on a team that has proven to be able to use both Hines and a back like Taylor last year. So
guys in different roles like that. I'd hold him in dynasty because of the idea that he possibly could figure it out and get going somewhere else. I don't think he's on Indianapolis next year. So I'd hold him, but obviously he's not worth a whole hell of a lot in most other formats right now.
Yeah.
But to circle back around
Cam
Akers and Darrell Henderson, I don't think that it means that they think that Akers can be still there. I don't think they think he's their number one guy anymore. I think they've seen enough on that. Mm-hmm. But I think that they feel he's more talented and worth more than what they were going to get from him. I think that they're waiting for Kyron Williams to come back, and I think that we all know what and who Malcolm Brown is at this point, and Cam Akers is, if nothing else, a step up from that. So why wouldn't you use him if he's available? Plus, he knows the offense. So it's not like you're not like you went out and made a trade and are trying to fit a new guy in who doesn't know a whole hell of a lot right now. But yeah, it was very surprising with the amount of movement that we saw on the running back front over the trade deadline and who was rumored to be available and who was rumored to be looking for things, and that he was one of the bigger shocks that didn't at least find a new home.
Yeah. Because we've been saying it for weeks. I mean, not just we, obviously. It's been the news for weeks that it was, I think it was like even Schefter or something. I don't want to get it wrong, but one of the bigger names just like 3-4 weeks ago when he first kind of sat down out of the lineup was saying that it seems likely that he will be traded at some point. And so, yeah, you're right. The fact that it didn't happen, there's obviously some sort of, whether it was a come to Jesus discussion for him there or whatever it was, something's clicking. Look, as someone who, and maybe this is just me saying it because I do own him in a league where I could desperately use some running back help at the moment. Maybe it's me being optimistic that I'm going to get that magic burst out off my IR slot right now. But I don't know. I don't think the dream is dead for Cam Akers just yet. It could very well be here in the next couple of weeks if he still doesn't do anything. But I don't think it's dead just yet. Speaking of some of the other trades, the other big one was Hawkinson going to Minnesota. I'm curious to think, this is a team, Minnesota team that you're obviously as a Packer fan very familiar with. This one's a bit closer for you. Who do you think this was? What do you think this represents for Minnesota? Do they just not believe Irv Smith is the guy that they want to be a top end tight end for them, or are they just looking to be more of a kind of 2 tight end, like let's provide as many weapons as possible situation? Like, where do you think they are? Well, why do you think Minnesota made that trade?
Well, I think Minnesota knows Irv Smith enough now to know what they do and don't have in him, and I think Irv Smith is a capable NFL tight end, and he's a good receiver. He's not their blocking tight end. They have a blocking tight end in Ben Ellefson, but Ellefson has been injured. Munt, who scored last week, is actually kind of their kind of jack of all trades, like workhorse, perfect third tight end kind of guy. Smith is a good receiver. He's not quite that dynamic game-busting playmaker that I think everybody in the fantasy community, to some extent myself included, we're hoping or thinking that he would be, or we're trying to will him into being. He's in a great situation. It's a great situation there for a tight end if you can play the position, because you've got so many weapons around you. Kirk Cousins is a good, capable distributor of the football. Can even be dynamic at times. It's a good system, especially with O'Connell, calling the shots right now. There's room in this offense where if they could get that dynamic threat, like we've seen TJ Hawkinson be in short bursts, that could really open things up. I said it in the preseason vis-a-vis Smith. I said if Smith can really become that dynamic pass catching tight end that they're looking for, that could open things up even further for their great receiver core, their 3 deep receiver core between Jefferson, who might be the best in the game, Thielen, who is even though his efficiency stats have been kind of dropping over the last few years, is still a very effective, very dangerous weapon, more so underneath. KJ Osborne can still open it up and turn it loose. They still have Dalvin Cook, even though they don't quite throw to him as much as I kind of wish they would. That's a great offense, and the only thing that really, that they're still trying to figure out is that tight end position. Now Smith's injured. He might be out for a little while here. It's perfect time for Hawkinson to be able to step in and show what he can do if they can get him open in the seam a little bit. Plus, Hawkinson is a good enough blocker that you don't have to take him off the field. First and second downs, he can still. You don't have to telegraph what you're doing by sending in your third offensive tackle to block.
Well, and when you have that guy at tight end, it opens up the door for so many more, audible situations, or it allows the quarterback a little more flexibility when reading the defense. If it's just not going to, just doesn't look like it's going to work with the play they have, it gives them some other options to switch out to, which is never a bad thing.
Yeah, it feels weird to say I'm excited to see it because, like you said, I'm a Packer fan, and I'm not excited to see that team get any better. But I am excited to see, or interested to see, what this looks like when when Hawkinson can get fully integrated into that offense, because I think he will bring a different dimension, different dynamic, and maybe with a little more consistent quarterback play and a little more consistent play calling, he can maybe unlock his full potential. Like I said, we've seen it in bursts. He had a giant game, his very first game in the whole league, for crying out loud. And then we saw a 30-plus point game from him a couple weeks ago this season. We've seen it. He can be that guy. It's just, I think we need to see more consistent calls for him. He himself needs to be maybe a little more consistent actually catching the ball. But this is the best situation he's found himself in. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think if you've got him season long or dynasty, I think this was a good trade.
Well, we could see it as early today because word is coming out that he's expected to be an immediate and big impact in this offense. So we will see how that looks today in that Vikings game. We are going to take a short break here, as always, to hear from Manscaped. But when we come back, we are going to start breaking down some of these games for you. We'll be able to touch on in those games some more of the trades that happened this past week. So stay tuned, and we will be right back after this break from Manscaped.
Welcome to Fresh Ball Fall. It's the season of pumpkin spice and making sure your crotch looks nice. That means sipping cider in a fall breeze and using Manscaped products to trim your balls with ease. That's right, today's show is brought to you by Manscaped, a company here to make sure that your foliage isn't the only thing shedding its excess leaves. Heck, even Mother Nature knows it's time to lose the excess clutter for fall. Join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Whether you're brand new or already with us at Manscaped, you can use the crown jewel of care for your family jewels, the Platinum Package 4.0. This glorious package, you can align your entire hygiene routine all in one swoop. Inside the 10-part Platinum Package is everything you know and love about the Performance Package, plus some shower goodies included to elevate your grooming game to platinum. You can now completely upgrade your shower routine with the Ultra Premium Body Wash and Ultra Premium 2-in-1 Shampoo and Conditioner. You'll have your skin and hair feeling hydrated and smelling fresh. Don't forget to apply their aluminum-free Ultra Premium Deodorant. And don't worry, it's not pumpkin spice, it's a cologne-quality fragrance. Get the Platinum Package this fall. These products are guaranteed to be hits for your dangly bits. Go to manscaped.com to get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Manscaped, clear out the leaves. It's your tree trunk's time to shine.
Clear out them leaves. Look, they nail it on the current situation or the season or whatever. Yeah, look, Manscaped, fantastic, and
very topical.
Their ads, very topical. Okay, very topical for sure. Oh, I don't know why that just hit me like that. Anyways, let's get into some games here, and as always, we're gonna start with Chase here. What is a game that you are looking at to be very fantasy relevant today?
Honestly, I mean, they're all they're all fantasy relevant. They're all fantasy relevant.
But I get what.
No, I'm watching the Green Bay game. I'm watching that Green Bay Detroit game because, like we said, Detroit's had a lot of they've been able to score points. That's one thing they've been able to do. I mean, losing games 42-35 isn't the fault of the offense necessarily. Jared Goff has looked much less Jared Goffy than I think a lot of us thought he was going to look. I'm interested to see, like we said, can Green Bay get right in this game a little bit? Are they going to turn it loose a little bit with their running backs? If Lazard is healthy, can he actually, can he be a number one guy again? What do we see out of Dobbs? What do we see? Are they going to use Samari Toure more? Like we saw him score last week, and Rodgers he's been very Favre-like here towards the end of his career in terms of Willie won't he? So I think we're all having flashbacks, unfortunately. But Rodgers has talked Toure up a little bit this week, and is he going to use him more? The other one that I'm really interested in here is I want to see what happens in this Charger-Falcon matchup. I want to see
that was mine.
Cordero Patterson now looks like he's going to play. I had him pretty low in my rankings because I wasn't necessarily sure he was going to play. Now that he looks like he is going to be in there, if you're looking at my rankings, at least I would probably swap Algier and Huntley and Patterson around. I'd have Patterson up at the top there. I'd have Algier after him, and I think Huntley is the one who takes the big drop there.
Yeah, I think you're right. The way they've been using those guys, I think that makes sense. Yeah, which works for me because I'm going up against Huntley this week in my home league, which is fortunate because the guy I'm going up against, his entire bench is on bye week. Is on bye right now.
Yeah, so he's like forced to use
his entire bench is all of his starters too. So it's just I'm just catching him perfect this week.
This is the absolute worst bye week, maybe in the history of bye weeks. So I think we're all gonna run into a couple situations like that where if it's not us, it's the guy or girl we're playing against. Where we're forced to use number 4 receivers on teams that we don't even throw the ball kind of thing because there's just so many people out this week. But I am curious. I mean, Patterson looked good before his injury earlier this season. That's an offense. Patterson himself looked good.
He looked good in the first week.
Well, and he got hurt not long after that. But I'm curious to see. I mean, now that he's had some time off, he's had some time to heal up. We saw him tail off last season from his early season success. And I don't know how much of that was necessarily due to other teams figuring out the scheme or Patterson being my age and running out of gas possibly. But he doesn't. I mean, obviously, he shouldn't be running out of gas at this point right now because he hasn't played for a long time.
Yeah, he should be pretty fresh right now.
I'm interested to see that. Plus, can Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter actually, put together the kinds of games that we kind of have been expecting them to put together with Keenan Allen out? Seemingly all season, we've been waiting for Palmer and or Carter to look like a number 2 receiver behind Williams. Well, now they are number 1 and 2. Can they actually look like it? I think I agree with you that Eckler is probably option 1, and for now, right now, this week anyway, Everett may be number 2.
Well, it's been interesting because the way the Chargers started the season on offense, there, Everett was like I had predicted and hoped for as a drafter of Everett in pretty much all of my leagues, was a pretty main part of their offense coming out the gate. And he was very much involved. He was good. If he wasn't good for a touchdown, he was at least good for 60 yards on 4 catches. So from a tight end standpoint, to get you the second he broke that double digit, threshold, he was good. The last couple weeks, he's kind of fallen off a little bit. They seem to have not used him as much. I am hopeful that it does seem like they're going to be forced to go back to really leaning on him this week, and which I think they should because he's athletic enough to where he should be able to. He's obviously not going to hit the heights of a receiver as far as athleticism wise, but he's going to be good enough at that position for them to take advantage of it. So I hope they do because I think they operate better as an offense when they involve him.
Yeah, I've got him up at number 6 this week overall. For at the tight end position, which is higher than I've been on him, I think all season pretty much, just because I'm not convinced that that they're going to give him the consistent run always, but I think this week they're kind of backed into a corner and there's not a whole lot of they don't have a whole lot of choice. So I'm high on him this week. We'll see with the whole Palmer Carter situation, but Everett himself, I think, for today, at least finds himself the number 2 option, and it would be really nice to see him kind of take that situation by the horns and run with it, to mix metaphors. So
yes, Well, look, the game I was looking at was actually that Falcons game. So you did snipe that one for me, but I will turn around. I know for once a good turnaround on me, right? I will turn around here and say another game that I find interesting from a fantasy standpoint. Is the Seahawks and Cardinals this week. One, because I'm looking to see that consistency build of D-Hop, being back in this offense and seeing that continue to rise. But there's also so many question marks here as well for still, can Geno kind of keep it going? We've hit that point of the season now where we're really going to find out if someone's early season charm was real or fake. And do we see Geno continue to carry the Seahawks offense on the backs of Kenneth Walker and Tyler Lockett catching 50-yard bombs after having going 0 for 0 in the first 3 quarters? That's been Lockett this year. It's just he'll have 2 points, and in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden he catches 2 50-yard touchdowns, and he's breaking the slate in that sense. So I am curious to see how this matchup plays out, I think it could be a sneaky higher scoring game of the week, maybe a top 3 as far as points goes. That they are in, I think they're in Arizona. I believe they're in Arizona. So I think this is a situation where we could have some points scored. I think we see Kenneth Walker involved. I think, we talked about James Conner earlier. I think we could still see Eno Benjamin score a touchdown today. I think it might be that kind of situation. So yeah, the Seahawks and Cardinals at 4:05 today on Fox, depending on where you are. That's one that I'm looking at.
Yeah, that could be a fun game to watch offensively, depending on whether if they can get Tyler Lockett open. Tyler Lockett's he's looked good this year with Geno Smith. I think he always felt kind of like I've always seen him as a boom bust option. He's been frustrating for me in terms of ownership of him over the years because he's, like I said, I've always said that he's a 30-point per week guy. You just have to be able to
pick the right week
and know which 30. Yeah, right. Because the other weeks we're going to add up to 30. But this year he's been much more consistent. I think Geno has been looking his way a lot more.
He has been starting to, like I said, earlier in the year, he still seemed like that boom or bust, but more recently, he seems to be getting more involved in the every kind of down situation.
As Geno gets more and more command of this offense, it seems like it just keeps opening up in front of him, and I'm so happy for that dude. Like, we all had written him off, and like he said, everybody wrote me off. I ain't right back though, and good for him for not writing back because I mean. he doesn't show any signs of slowing down. I don't think in this offense, and he's helped by the good running attack. He's helped by the fact he's thrown to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Noah Fant and Will Dissly. But I mean, you still have to play the position back there.
Yes, and
he's looked very good. And I think as he continues to take command of this offense and get more and more comfortable with it, I don't see Lockett himself slowing down at all, and that's a huge thing for Tyler Lockett owners. I think we didn't draft him to necessarily be your top option, but he's been playing like he could be a top option for people, and I would love to see that situation continue over there. I would like to see the Seahawks just really kind of stick it to people kind of all year.
And that's fine with me.
I like that. I know Kevin would like it.
Kevin would definitely like it. I agree. I enjoy comeback stories when they feel like just real genuine comeback stories. Like you said, everyone had written Geno Smith off, including me, probably you, probably everybody. And look, the man, just bottom line, even if it is just for half the season or for one season, that he changed. Say he's awful for the rest of the year now, he still changed his story. He still changed the outcome of his, quote unquote, legacy seems like too strong of a word for a guy like Geno Smith. But as far as his football career goes, he still changed the end kind of story because people are going to more so remember, even if it's just this first half of the year, they're going to remember this first half of the year over the rest of it because it was so special and caught and not unexpected. And so good for Geno Smith, good for taking advantage of the opportunity. I will never be down on that type of thing in football because these chances for these guys are so fleeting. Man, I'll tell you what, on both my golf show Tuesday night and now today, for some reason I have just completely blacked out on comments from our viewers, just completely missed them. So thank you, Chase, for sliding in on these now.
I just wanted to get Daniels up there because our friend John who has been on here before, has commented on here before, apparently a big Vikings fan, and Daniel agrees with the rest of sanity and humanity. Although they don't suck, which is terrible. It's too bad that they don't suck. But welcome back to the show, Daniel. Daniel's got a couple questions here. Actually,
he's got a couple very good questions here. Actually, let's start with that top one there. If you're still in control over there,
I don't need to be in control.
So let's say Daniel's
the Vikings suck on there. I had to get that on before we.
Well, and this is perfect timing because we were just talking about Metcalf, so we'll look like we're between Lazard, Metcalf, Tony, and Thielen needs 2. I will say, if you're still in the chat, Daniel, is this PPR? I'm assuming it's PPR. That seems to be the new standard, even though I'm going to say PPR or standard. But if it's PPR, I'm leaning Lazard and Metcalf here.
If Lazard's healthy,
if he's
I think
healthy,
it's your
yeah.
first two. I think Metcalf, regardless. I know they've said Tony's going to be involved this week. I keep waiting to. It says half PPR. Okay?
Way to ride the fence.
Yeah. Any PPR situation, I still like both of them better than the other two right now.
I agree.
Thielen's a little bit up or down right now, hit or miss. Tony, I have to see it before I have to buy into anything and believe in Tony at all.
I have to see that too, because it took Juju a bit to get used to that offense. It took him a few weeks, so I don't think Tony is on the same level as Juju, and Tony's just going to be able to walk in here and be catching bombs from Mahomes.
That's a little bit of an aside, but we'll follow that side quest on Juju Smith-Schuster. Yeah, he was a guy I was high on. I think a lot of people had high hopes. We've seen him be a top 10 type receiver in the past, and he did not look like it for the first 6-7 weeks here. But the last couple of games, actually, he's put up 100 plus in both games. He scored both games, first 2 touchdowns of the year. I think that he's putting it together. I think that he's much more comfortable now. I think he and Mahomes are starting to get that rhythm together. I think Smith-Schuster is the best receiver on that team, not named Travis Kelce.
Yeah, that's a fair caveat.
In terms of wideouts, I think he's the best wideout on that team right now, even with Kadarius Toney being added. So,
yes.
I like that. And like I said, because of what you just said, that maybe it takes some time to figure out and then develop a rapport with Mahomes. I don't think Toney is necessarily a great play right away.
Well,
however, it wouldn't shock me if he came out and they schemed a couple of gadget things for him inside the 20 and he scored this week.
So, and that's what it makes me worried about. And I think that's why it does take receivers coming from that basically receivers that didn't start with Mahomes. It takes them a while because Mahomes is a freelancer at quarterback. So they may be able to scheme a bunch of plays for Toney, but and Mahomes wouldn't be doing it on purpose to spite Toney, but Mahomes is good at kind of reading the situation of the rush and whatnot, and he will move to wherever he feels like he has the most room to throw. And if that is taking him away from the side of the field that the play is schemed for Toney, that's what's going to happen, and he's not going to be throwing the ball to Toney. And so I think but that's why you look at, McCole Hardman's still there. He's still having random success because he knows when Mahomes runs around, he knows where to go to both help Mahomes and be useful to the team. Same thing with Kelce. Like, that's what we're seeing, which is why, as a side point here, we shouldn't be shocked that Demarcus Robinson is also having success last week with Lamar Jackson. I expect that to kind of continue, especially with the Rashad Bateman injury. Another guy who's used to playing with a guy who moves around, and they almost have to make up a route on the spot. They just have to find an opening. So we will see if Kadarius Toney is a guy that can do that until I see that he can. Let's not forget, I think Toney's getting a lot of credit for being traded to the Chiefs, and he's being boosted real high right now. Let's not forget his status in the league. He hasn't shown us much yet. He's, still pretty much a rookie. And he's coming from
he can't get on the field.
And he hasn't been able to get on the field. So I'm not ready to sit here and say that Toney's now going to blow up. Toney could very well just disappear.
He's got such a reputation for being such a dynamic player because we all know he's athletic. Well, yeah. Welcome to the NFL. Literally every dude out there, including the ones who look like your fat uncle, every dude out there is athletic.
Mm-hmm.
Kadarius Toney, for all of his athleticism and all the hype around him, you know how many touchdowns this dude scored in his career?
I'm gonna say, is it even any?
It's an absolute donut.
I was gonna say my gut would say 0.
Yeah, I mean, so great. You can be as athletic as you want to be, and I'm happy for you, Kadarius Toney, and you're making more money than I'm doing, and you can probably outrun me. But I mean, we have the exact same number of scores in the NFL. Neither one of us is going to Hall of Fame anytime soon. I
love that stat. That's how we're going to start grading. We're going to start grading people on this show. If you have as many touchdowns as Chase in the NFL, then you are not good enough.
Yeah, I'm not hyped up yet about you, in anything. I've been a little harsh on Toney in Twitter world, but I think I'm happy. I'm excited for him too. He's athletic and he's in a situation where there's plays to be had because nobody is. I mean, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, like I've talked about before, I'd like to apologize to Tyler Lockett for being so frustrated with him, because Marcus Valdez-Scantling and Mecole Hardman are the absolute epitome of frustrating in terms of having supposed talent and then not ever being able to put it together more than, half a game in a row.
I'm going to go ahead and say that if you're in a redraft league and, with Tony being traded, somebody is offering you to trade for Tony, you send him their way. You get whatever you can. Because here's the thing with Tony. I think if Tony is going to have success in this offense, is going to be next year. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's happened this year. That's why when Tony got traded, I was out there trying to pick up and train for Wan'Dale Robinson instead. Anytime a guy gets traded, especially a skill position guy, I should clarify, a skill position guy gets traded mid-season, it opens up typically not going to be looking to go out and get shares of the guy that got traded to a different team and a new offense and a new situation, so many unknowns. I'm going to get the guy who's now definitely the next guy up in his position on the same team and the same offense, who's already been working with the playbook, working with the quarterback. It just makes more sense.
I've said it before. It's not Madden.
Yeah.
You can't make the trade and the guy's 93 rating doesn't necessarily follow him.
Exactly.
If Justin Herbert had been traded to Tennessee this past week, Justin Herbert wasn't all of a sudden still a top 5 type quarterback. Mm-hmm. Instantly this week.
I will say instantly this week. No, I will say something like
fantasy standpoint. Yeah.
Not from a fantasy standpoint. Yeah, I will say something like a quarterback got traded in that scenario. I would give more credence to a quarterback that got traded having success in the same year.
Later that season, yeah, because not like that immediate week.
And because of it, yeah. Exactly.
So going out and jumping all over Tony this week just because he got traded and he's in a different position, situation.
I'm not doing it.
No. So I think, if Lazard's healthy, Daniel, to kind of bring it way back around, if Lazard's healthy, it's your first 2 there. In terms of Rodgers versus Herbert, I have Herbert ranked higher this week. I'm not choosing between the 2 in any league. If I were, it's probably a closer choice than what I have them ranked as. I have Rodgers at 12. I think I have Herbert at 5 or 6.
Yeah, I gotta double check. I honestly forget where I had them each ranked. I gotta check my rankings right now.
I think Rodgers has a good matchup against the Lions, especially if Lazard's healthy. But and Herbert, we've talked about it all show so far that Herbert's missing his top 2 guys. But Rodgers, I'm still waiting to see it from him in terms of being able to put together that big game. Whereas Herbert, I think, still has Austin Eckler he can throw to. He still has guys he's comfortable with. I would go Herbert for the week. I would love to see Rodgers prove me wrong, but again, I'm still waiting on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do have Herbert ranked 9th and Rodgers ranked 12th, so still pretty close. Still as QB1s this week. So really, you probably can't go wrong in my opinion this week because I do think Rodgers can have a good week. Yeah. But I'd be going.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, but I'd be going with Herbert here. Real fast before we get to your other question, though. Daniel, which I think honestly is a question that is gonna start coming up even more. You might be the first one to kind of bring it up, but we're gonna get to that. It involves Darren Waller. But first, we're gonna take a quick break from True Classic Tees right here, and we will be right back to talk a little bit about Darren Waller when we're done.
Football is back, baby, and our new sponsor, True Classic, wants you to look and feel your best even after a couple of brewskis or going full force on your fantasy football draft. Sure, it's football season, but it's also butt-to-couch season. Luckily, True Classic has the absolute best-fitting clothing a man can buy. Snug in the arms and chest with a little extra space in the torso, their t-shirts are designed to keep you cozy and highlight your best assets no matter what you're up to. So if your special someone is upset that you're watching football all day, at least you can look good doing it. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men find the perfect fit at an affordable price. Our listeners get access to the best deal they offer. For a limited time only, get 25% off with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at TrueClassic.com. Almost all men's t-shirts are designed to look good on skinny models with 6-packs, but most of us aren't packing anything but a few beers. Fellas, you are wearing the wrong clothes. True Classic tees taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. It's time to highlight your best attributes with a t-shirt you can always confidently throw on. It's about time to get your fit together, so upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic and get 25% off at TrueClassic.com with promo code BellyUpFantasy. Free shipping included on purchases over $100. That's 25% off at TrueClassic.com with the promo code BellyUpFantasy. If there's one bet you should make this football season, it's on True Classic. True Classic, look good, feel good.
And welcome back. Another great commercial from True Classic Tees. We say it every week. Some of our favorite t-shirts out there. Comfortable, form-fitting. They just work out great. But let's quickly get to Daniel's next question here about Darren Waller. He asks, is it time to drop Darren Waller? And it's an interesting question. Look, he had the bye week in week 6, so he's already got his bye week. Which is honestly a big sign I look for when it comes to dropping guys, especially and when we're talking about the tight end position. If I'm going to have a guy on my team who's already had his bye week, that's very valuable to me, especially if I'm really fighting for a playoff spot this time of year. And yeah, look, he hasn't been healthy. He started off the year all right with 2 double-digit point games, but then following up with 2 5-point games. Definitely hurt. But when it comes down to it, Darren Waller is probably still the most trusted guy in that offense. And obviously something hasn't been right with him. But with the landscape of what the tight end position looks like across the league, I don't think I'm dropping him. Now, granted, if you're in a situation where it's like a 5-deep bench and you don't have an IR spot and you have to fill the position, then, you might be forced to if you can't just trade him for, some other tight end or someone who has 2 or whatever. But I think in most scenarios, I'm probably not dropping him yet because I think on any given week, he can still be a top 10 guy at the position.
Right. Yeah. There's so much talent there, right? And it's hard to justify dropping a guy that has that much, especially at a position that sucks as bad as tight end does. It's so hard to find any kind of consistent point scorer there outside of Kelsey and Andrews. And even Andrews now has been injured lately, and he's a Willie Won't-y situation. First 2 weeks of the season, Waller looked like Waller. He had double-digit points in both. His target share was hovered around 20%, even with Adams coming in there. It's not that he's not getting looks when he's been healthy, and I think that's something you can't discount is that when he's in there, they're going to want to get the ball to Darren Waller. They're going to still use him when he's healthy. I'm not dropping him, especially at tight end. If we were talking about an equivalent type situation at receiver or something, we may revisit that. But being that it's tight end, being that it's Darren Waller, we know he can be a top 3 or 4 type option at that position when healthy. I'm willing, unfortunately, to wait until he gets healthy. It sucks playing the Willie Won't-y game every week. I would want another option on my team right now. If for some reason Tyler Conklin or say Hayden Hurst are still out there, they might be options for you to try and fill in and wait on Waller, but I'm not necessarily dropping him. The other thing about it, it came out this morning, Shefty came out this morning, and since we're, talking about, news and the trade deadline, it comes out this morning that the Packers actually did make some apparently aggressive moves to try to acquire not just Chase Claypool, who we eventually saw go to the Bears, and I think everybody thought, what the hell?
Both of our teams were trying to get him. They said the same thing with the Pats.
But apparently the Packers actually did make some overtures to try and get Darren Waller. And I know Darren Waller's name came up initially in the whole Devontae Adams trade situation. They don't have a terrible tight end situation in Las Vegas with Foster Moreau as a backup. Foster Moreau's a very capable tight end. He's a very good player. He probably could start on
he's
several teams.
Not
in
a
this
flashy
league.
tight end, but he can. He's very suitable.
He's a very good, capable Jack of all trades overall tight end. I think.
Yeah.
They've got a good situation there for when their top guy's missing. But Darren Waller's just not a guy I can justify dropping. But he's going to be a frustrating ride possibly for the rest of the year until he can get absolutely healthy.
I do agree with that. And speaking of some injuries, we do have some injury updates here that just dropped around the 11:30 mark. So let's quickly run down a few here. Christian Watson for your Packers is active and will play against Detroit.
For at least a couple snaps.
At least a couple snaps, yes. Josh Reynolds inactive. DeAndre Carter is active. Alan Lazard is active, so he is a go today. So that definitely rounds out our answer to you, Daniel. We're going to go with Lazard in that situation. As we said earlier, Damian Harris is now officially inactive. J.D. McKissick is also officially inactive.
That Damian Harris news is not quite as earth-shattering as it would have been about 2 months ago.
So it's not.
Ramondre Stevenson looks like he maybe has actually taken that thing by the throat, and which is weird to say for a New England running back situation. You're a little closer to it than I am, but
no, it has that feel as well. Look, and the thing is, Damian Harris likely isn't injured. He's just sick with a non-COVID illness this week, so that's why he's inactive. So that's, if you are a Damian Harris owner, at least that part is good news for you. You're not dealing with an injury situation. I think Harris just caught this whatever bug or whatever he has kind of midweek, and he hasn't been able to rebound quite yet from it.
Right. We're talking about a guy in Stevenson. Stevenson is eighth among running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Stevenson's eighth in the league in passing targets. He's also eighth in the league in rushing attempts. For a guy who started out in what looked like a timeshare and has the bottom half of a timeshare, to be eighth in the league, top 10 in the league in both of those, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. I think we may have seen that flip flop that I think we all kind of were cheering for in the preseason. I wasn't convinced it was going to happen right away. I don't think it happened as quickly I don't think it would have happened as quickly had Harris stayed healthy.
Well, so here it might have still, because here, at least locally, talk up here was there was I wouldn't say there was expectation that Damian Harris was going to get traded on Tuesday, but there was kind of this sentiment that there was going to be no surprise if Damian Harris got traded.
They have a drafted guy behind him. They still had J.J. Taylor, who I believe they brought up in his active.
Is he? I don't know if he's on the active roster at this point.
I thought they had signed him. I thought I saw something come across the wire this week that they had.
They might have activated, and then I missed that if they did. But yeah, they drafted Pierre Strong as well. So yeah, they have some guys who are kind of taking their time in the worst. But look, you hit a spot on about Stevenson. Why Stevenson has had the success is he's explosive yet patient. He's kind of the both the best words where he can do it all in whatever the situation calls for. He's always been the better pass catcher out of Harris, between him and Harris. And he's been excelling at that, especially with how, Happy Feet, Mac Jones, and Bailey Zappi both have been. They both had to turn to him. So Stevenson, from a fantasy standpoint, you can easily consider him at this point a back-end running back 1 or high-end running back 2. He might not hit it every week, but I think that's kind of like his floor, like right around that 10, 11, 12 running back on a week. And he's probably going to get you at least that running back like 18, because he's going to get the touchdown looks. He's getting, around 3 catches on average a game. And he's been able to put up the yardage to match. Stevenson I think he's here to stay. I hope so. I like watching Stevenson run. But as a Patriots fan, I'm always expecting the running backs to be shipped out at any point and starting over.
Traded out, shipped out,
and just starting over. Like that's just how Bill operates with running backs, and I get it. As a position, it's a position that does have some of the higher turnover, or I should say,
and
not
they've proven in
turnover.
New England. New England has proven to be one of those places where they can plug and play more so than maybe some other places. But they are one of those offenses, and like you said. I mean, it's an eminently replaceable position in the first place, league-wide. It's viewed as that now. Yeah. Secondly, that's a team that kind of started that whole trend. But Stevenson he looks different than some of the guys that they've had. This Stevenson is not. He's not Sony Michel, and he's not Harris. He's kind of a special case.
The other guys have been one-dimensional.
I think Ramondre Stevenson is. I view him as he's a top 12. For the rest of the rest of the season, I think Ramondre Stevenson is a top 12.
Yep.
I would be thrilled to have him where you got him, because you didn't draft him to be top 12.
people were still taking Damian Harris ahead of him. And that's the thing. He was, I'm sure that there might have even been some leagues that he went undrafted. Like, it wouldn't have shocked me. Because I think, like you said before, the Patriots had that reputation of a backfield that I think a lot of people, from a fantasy standpoint, were just staying away from, which I don't doubt them for, because I thought it was going to be pretty even as well, so I was staying away from it. But, yeah, like you said, some definite value you got there. Before we jump off here in the last couple minutes, let's get to a couple start-sit questions from the Twitterverse. And this was kind of interesting because it is the same team, PPR Flex. We already talked about one of these guys, Kadarius Toney or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I only bring it up because Clyde Edwards-Helaire, yeah, exactly. That's why I bring it up.
That's not the beer talking. That's the question talking.
That is, one, a crappy situation to be in. So good luck. And two, this is coming from a guy, Ghost, on Twitter. So if you're listening, Ghost on Twitter, we're here for you. We'll retweet it out. But yeah, look, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it feels like, the team was very public about Isaiah Pacheco getting more run. They didn't do it immediately, but maybe that was shame on us for assuming it was immediate, considering their bye week was coming right up after. It might be the time now that Pacheco really takes over. So there's a chance both of these guys are like complete duds this week, honestly.
Right.
There's a chance both of them give you zeros. There's a chance both of them give you less than 3. Like, it ain't pretty. So in that case, I'm gonna say barely Edwards-Helaire, just because of his history in the offense, and he's gonna still get on the field every now and then to where maybe he catches one of those random, sideways flip passes from Mahomes, and he's outscores Toney 4-3. Like, I don't.
Right. Yeah. So they were all public. Oh, he's going to get more run. He's going to get more run. He's going to get more run. And then, the game happened in week 7. Now, they obviously were on the bye last week, but game 7 comes around. Jerick McKinnon leads the backfield in snaps with 28. Pacheco out-snapped Clyde Edwards-Helaire 19-17. So it wasn't like they were some like flip-flop. It wasn't a Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris type flop in terms of playtime or opportunities.
Yeah.
Pacheco got 8 carries. Edwards-Helaire had 6 carries and a target.
I know.
So, it wasn't like they all – and Jerick McKinnon, for that matter, had 5 opportunities in that game as well. So it's not like they all of a sudden went to one guy being the guy. I think Jerick McKinnon has looked really solid all year and just can't catch a break in terms of anybody on that coaching staff wanting to make him the guy. He can't catch a break his whole career because every time he gets the opportunity to be a guy, like, he either gets hurt or he gets stuck in a situation like this where there's 37 other dudes in line and he's just waiting to audition. The biggest thing that worries me is that for all that we heard that Pacheco was going to get more run, then they come out that week and Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the only one who saw any work in the red zone as well. Yeah. So I'm worried. I'm worried that this backfield might be trending toward, Pacheco might be the guy until they get inside the 20, and then it's anybody's guess whether CEH or McKinnon or anybody else is going to come in.
And that might be something, I don't want to say it this way, but that might be Mahomes' call, because if Mahomes is more comfortable with, Edwards-Helaire ability to find an open area if he needs to, make an emergency throw, that might be Mahomes just being more comfortable with that.
Right. So I think I agree with you that for this week at least.
Yeah, this week.
If I had to choose between those two guys, ouch. And I'm sorry, dude. Sorry, Ghost. But no, if you have to choose between those two guys, I think I lean CEH this week. That may completely change going forward. But right now, just the signs still point to him being, for whatever reason, against the all reason, they're still using him in the red zone. And he's still going to get some run, I think. So.
Well, here with our last question, let's get to a question that we're going to go from a situation that is no fun to have to one that, how in the hell do you have these options? All right. I'm about to blow your mind on this person needs to sit one of these people. When I say this person, this is from Kelly at Indie Girl in MA. She needs to sit one of these: Waddle, Diggs, Jefferson, Hopkins. How in the hell do you have all 4 of those receivers on one team?
Right.
It doesn't say what type of scoring. It doesn't say what type of league. If this is a dynasty league,
Yeah, right. Like dynasty, maybe you acquired all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. It almost
Yeah.
makes sense from that it's a dynasty league. To me, it makes most sense that this is a dynasty league or this is like an 8-person league,
Right.
something like that.
First world problems, that's for sure.
First world problems. And look, if I have to sit one of these, I'm sitting Waddle.
Yeah.
I'm sitting just because I feel like Miami's starting to trend down. I'm actually picking the Bears to beat Miami today. I have it in my weekly parlay on Sportsbook. So yeah, I'm picking the Bears to beat Miami, and so I'm gonna be out of these 4. I think Diggs, Jefferson, and Hopkins has a higher chance of being a top 5 receiver than Waddle does this week.
Yeah, well, you're asking, should you sit the overall wide receiver 2, overall wide receiver 5, overall wide receiver 6, or a guy in Hopkins that we know can be right up there, but he's been suspended for 2 months.
Exactly.
So I think I agree. Listen, nobody in football has more targets over the last 2 weeks than DeAndre Hopkins since he came back. The only person who has as many is Jalen Waddle's teammate Tyreek Hill, who is the overall number 1. 27 targets in the last 2 weeks. I can't sit Dustin Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins. Dustin Hopkins, yeah, sit him.
You can sit him.
You can find it there. You could find other kickers. I think again, I have to sit Waddle as well. If only because his target share and his catching percentage is not going to be quite what it is for the rest of those guys. And you're talking about sitting the number 6 overall wide receiver. I don't know what your running back situation looks like there, Kelly.
And I'm going to go.
Trade.
I'm going to go ahead and say, if this is a 12-team league somehow, or even a 10-team league, and you have these 4 guys trade, you must have another position that you need to strengthen. Trade someone out of those 4 and go get a top end guy at another position.
Diggs, Jefferson, Hill. These guys are all. You can't go wrong with that. That's amazing. Now, Diggs and Jefferson are past their bye weeks.
Yes.
Hopkins, I believe, still has his coming up. Plus, he was.
I'd be looking to trade Waddle on above all, but Hopkins would be, because you said the bye weeks right there. Hopkins would be the next in line, especially with Hopkins. Obviously just coming off the expense.
Well, and Hopkins
looking hot.
Hopkins is a hot name right now too.
Exactly.
But really, you can't go wrong if you get anybody who would be willing to bite on any single one of those guys to give you back like a top tier tight end or top tier running back in return, or if you could get,
you should
I don't know what your tight end situation looks like, but if you could get Kelsey say back for that,
you should be able to get a top 7 running back for either one of those guys.
Right.
Just like a straight up trade.
And like I'm saying, like if you could somehow get Kelsey back and take any question out of your tight end room.
Agreed.
If you could somehow get a top tier running, and again, we don't know what our running backs look like.
Yep.
Do that. Yeah. Man, it's a good situation to be in.
Hell of a situation to be in. Well, good luck to you, Kelly. Good luck as always to Daniel. Thank you for joining the chat, and John as well. And good luck to all. It's week 9. It's Sunday. We're getting ready. We're within an hour of kickoff. So
we gotta turn it on because, like you said, man, the season is winding down. As weird as that sounds.
At 3-5 in my home league, I am really looking to try to win out here. And like I said, maybe I'm hoping to catch a break this week, considering I'm facing a team that has like their entire starting lineup on bye. So it's not a guaranteed win, but I'm crossing my fingers. Anyways, that's going to do it, though, on this Sunday morning, afternoon now, actually. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the Monday night game. And we will see you next week, every Sunday here, 11 o'clock on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook. Have a great day. Belly Up Fantasy Live.